you believe that Kathy Engelbert should be replaced as the commissioner of the WNBA?
I do. I've known Kathy for a while. I like her. She's a woman in a man's world. She ran Deloitte. We're a few years apart in age. I totally respect that as someone who had a lot of that, being the only woman in the press box or whatever. University of Miami, as you know, and other places, maybe one or two of us, and that was the only woman in the locker room, etc. So I respect her background and her leadership and this great resume that she has. I don't get this. I don't get it at all. The paralysis, the inability to, I will not even editorialize. I will say the facts. The number of times that Kathy Engelbert has been asked by journalists, John Wertheim with 60 Minutes as an example, asked about Caitlin Clark, and then her answer is, well, Caitlin and Angel. And John Wertheim, to his great credit, wonderful friend and obviously great colleague, says, no, I didn't ask you about Angel. I only asked you about Caitlin. And then in her the WNBA playoffs I covered in finals in 2024, went on and on about all the things that had happened that year: record-breaking attendance, TV viewership, moving to bigger arenas, all because of one person, Caitlin
Clark, baby.
I think it was close to 20 minutes, 18, 19 minutes. Kathy Engelbert never said the words Caitlin Clark, never uttered her name. So something's going on, and leadership is needed. And when you have a void like this, the void is filled with anger and aggression, and you get things like that picture that's going to last forever.
Christine Brennan has covered some of the biggest moments in sports for decades. She's interviewed champions, covered Olympic Games, and reported on countless league-defining stories. So when someone with that kind of reputation is asked a simple question about the WNBA's leadership, most people expect a measured, carefully worded answer. Instead, she answered with two words that immediately changed the conversation. I do. She was asked whether WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert should be replaced, and there was no hesitation. Brennan didn't dodge the question or soften her position. She went on to explain why she believes the league has failed to provide the leadership needed during one of the most important periods in its history, repeatedly pointing to the way Caitlin Clark has been discussed and, in Brennan's view, mishandled, as the spotlight on the league has grown. Those comments quickly spread across the basketball world because they weren't coming from a social media personality or a passionate fan. They came from one of the country's best-known sports journalists, someone whose criticism carried weight far beyond a single headline. But Brennan's comments weren't just about one commissioner or one player. They opened a much larger debate about leadership, league messaging, player safety, and whether the WNBA has fully embraced the unprecedented attention surrounding Caitlin Clark. Supporters saw Brennan's remarks as saying out loud what they've believed for months. Others argued the situation is more complicated than one interview can capture, and that the league's growth reflects many contributors, not just one star. And as more people listened to Brennan's full explanation, it became clear that the biggest story wasn't simply her answer, it was the questions her answer left behind. Christine Brennan's comments immediately stood out because they came from someone who has spent decades covering the biggest stories in American sports. Throughout her career, she's reported from the Olympics, covered championship teams, and interviewed some of the most recognizable athletes in the world. That long track record means her opinions often carry a different kind of weight. Whether people agree with her or not, they know she's speaking from years of first-hand experience around professional sports and league leadership. She's also followed Caitlin Clark's rise long before Clark entered the WNBA. Brennan has written extensively about Clark's impact on women's basketball, documenting not only her performances on the court but also the unprecedented attention she brought to the sport. Because of that history, many people viewed this interview as more than another hot take. It sounded like the perspective of a veteran reporter who has watched the story develop from the beginning. What made the interview especially significant was its timing. The WNBA continues to experience record levels of visibility, larger television audiences, growing attendance, and increased national attention. At the same time, debates surrounding officiating, player safety, media coverage, and league messaging have become increasingly visible. Every major incident involving Caitlin Clark seems to spark another round of discussion, with fans, analysts, former players, and journalists often reaching very different conclusions. Against that backdrop, Brennan was asked a direct question about Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's leadership. Instead of giving a cautious or diplomatic response, she answered clearly and then explained the reasoning behind her position. That straightforward answer immediately became the headline, but it also shifted the conversation toward broader questions about how the league has handled one of the most transformative periods in its history. Some listeners viewed Brennan's comments as a necessary criticism of the league's leadership during a time of rapid growth. Others believed her assessment overlooked the complexity of managing a league experiencing unprecedented change and heightened scrutiny. Regardless of where people landed, the interview accomplished something few sports conversations manage to do. It moved beyond a single controversy and reignited a much bigger debate about leadership, public perception, and what the WNBA's future should look like as interest in the league continues to expand. Once Brennan explained her position, she didn't leave it at a headline. She backed up her opinion by pointing to several moments that, in her view, reflected a broader leadership issue rather than isolated incidents. Whether viewers ultimately agreed with her conclusions or not, her argument followed a consistent theme. The league has struggled to communicate during one of the most important periods in its history. One of Brennan's biggest criticisms centered on public messaging. During the interview, she recalled instances where Commissioner Kathy Engelbert was asked directly about Caitlin Clark but broadened her responses to include other players instead of focusing on the specific question. Brennan argued that this approach avoided addressing the subject being raised and, in her view, created unnecessary frustration among fans and media members looking for clear answers. Brennan also referenced the WNBA Finals media availability, where she said the commissioner discussed many of the league's accomplishments, including increased attendance, television ratings, and expanded national attention, without mentioning Clark by name. That observation was presented as Brennan's interpretation of the league's communication strategy. Supporters saw it as evidence that the league was missing an opportunity to acknowledge one of the biggest drivers of public interest, while others argued that league leaders often choose to emphasize the sport as a whole rather than spotlight a single player. Another major point involved player discipline. Brennan specifically referred to the on-court incident involving Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark, arguing that the punishment, a one-game suspension and a $1,000 fine, did not match the seriousness of the situation. She stated that she believed a significantly longer suspension would have been more appropriate. That recommendation was Brennan's opinion, not an official league standard, but it became one of the most discussed parts of the interview because it touched on the broader issue of player safety and consistency in disciplinary decisions. As the interview continued, it became clear that Brennan wasn't simply evaluating one press conference or one disciplinary ruling. She was describing what she believes is a pattern of leadership decisions that, in her opinion, have allowed avoidable controversies to grow instead of being addressed directly. That distinction is important. The verified fact is that Brennan publicly criticized the commissioner's leadership and explained why she believed change was needed. The broader conclusion, that these decisions represent a systemic leadership failure, is her analysis, not an established fact. At the same time, many fans echoed similar concerns, while others strongly disagreed, arguing that leading a rapidly growing professional league requires balancing the interests of every player, team, and stakeholder. And that's exactly why Brennan's interview resonated far beyond a single headline. It wasn't just a criticism of one decision. It challenged the way many people have been viewing the league's direction, ensuring that the conversation would continue well after the interview ended. It didn't take long for Brennan's comments to spread across basketball circles. Within hours, clips from the interview were circulating on social media, sports talk shows were referencing her remarks, and fans were once again debating one of the biggest questions surrounding the WNBA: is the league handling this unprecedented moment the right way? For many supporters of Caitlin Clark, Brennan's interview felt like validation. They argued that a veteran journalist was voicing concerns they had been expressing for months about league messaging, player protection, and the way Clark's impact has been discussed publicly. To them, Brennan's willingness to answer the commissioner's question directly gave additional credibility to those conversations. Others saw the interview very differently. Some fans agreed that Clark has undeniably brought enormous attention to the WNBA but believed it would be unfair to credit one player for every positive development. They pointed to the years of work by established stars, coaches, and league executives who helped build the foundation that made today's growth possible. From that perspective, emphasizing only one player risks overlooking the broader progress of women's basketball. Commentators were similarly divided. Some praised Brennan for asking difficult questions and challenging league leadership at a time when expectations have never been higher. Others suggested that leadership decisions involve far more complexity than can be captured in a single interview and cautioned against drawing sweeping conclusions from a few public appearances or disciplinary rulings. The discussion also highlighted how differently people interpret the same events. One group viewed Brennan's examples as evidence of missed opportunities to communicate clearly during a period of explosive interest. Another group viewed those same moments as reasonable attempts to recognize the league collectively instead of centering every conversation on one athlete. That contrast is what kept the conversation alive. The debate was no longer just about Kathy Engelbert or even Caitlin Clark. It became a larger discussion about leadership, recognition, competitive balance, and how a rapidly growing league should navigate unprecedented attention. As more voices entered the conversation, one thing became increasingly clear: regardless of where people stood, Brennan's interview had reignited a debate that wasn't likely to disappear anytime soon. As the discussion continued, it became important to separate what is documented from what remains a matter of interpretation. Brennan's interview generated strong reactions, but many of the points she raised can be understood more clearly by looking at the underlying facts and then distinguishing those facts from the conclusions people draw from them. One documented reality is that the WNBA has experienced a significant surge in visibility. Attendance has increased, television audiences have reached record levels in recent seasons, and media coverage has expanded well beyond its traditional audience. Those trends have been widely reported and are part of the league's recent growth story. At the same time, there is an ongoing debate about exactly how much of that growth should be attributed to Caitlin Clark versus the league's long-term investment in players, teams, and the sport as a whole. That question does not have a single agreed-upon answer. Another confirmed point involves the commissioner's public appearances. Brennan specifically referenced interviews and media sessions in which she believed Kathy Engelbert missed opportunities to directly address questions about Clark. Those interviews are part of the public record, and Brennan's criticism reflects her assessment of the commissioner's communication strategy. Others who watched those same appearances have reached different conclusions, arguing that a commissioner also has a responsibility to promote the league broadly rather than focusing on one individual. Player discipline also became a central part of the conversation. The league announced its disciplinary decision following the on-court incident involving Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark, and the details of that decision are documented. Brennan publicly stated that she believed the punishment should have been much more severe. That recommendation represents her opinion, not an official guideline or league standard. Fans and analysts have similarly expressed a wide range of views on whether the discipline was appropriate, illustrating how subjective these debates can become. Taken together, these confirmed events explain why Brennan's interview resonated so widely. She wasn't introducing a brand new controversy. Instead, she connected several highly visible moments into a broader argument about leadership and accountability during a period of extraordinary attention for the league. Whether people ultimately agree with that argument remains a matter of perspective. What is clear is that the facts, the league's growth, the public interviews, and the disciplinary decisions are all part of the public record. The disagreement begins when those facts are interpreted. And that distinction matters because it allows the conversation to remain grounded in evidence while still leaving room for legitimate differences of opinion about where the WNBA goes from here. By this point, the conversation had grown far beyond Christine Brennan's interview. Her comments became a starting point for a broader discussion about where the WNBA is headed and what kind of leadership is needed as the league enters one of the most significant periods in its history. Few would dispute that the league is operating in a different environment than it was just a few years ago. National broadcasts receive more attention, arenas are drawing larger crowds for many marquee matchups, and every major storyline is dissected across television, podcasts, and social media within minutes. That level of visibility creates opportunities, but it also brings far greater scrutiny. Decisions that might once have passed with little notice are now debated by millions of fans. That changing landscape raises bigger questions than whether one interview was fair or whether one disciplinary decision was sufficient. How should league leaders balance promoting individual stars while also highlighting the accomplishments of the league as a whole? How should they communicate during moments of controversy without allowing the story to overshadow the basketball itself? And how do they maintain trust among players, fans, media, and sponsors when every public statement is analyzed from multiple angles? Those questions don't have simple answers, which is why opinions remain so divided. Some observers believe the league should more openly embrace the players who generate the greatest public interest, arguing that star power has always been central to the growth of professional sports. Others believe sustained success depends on elevating the entire league, ensuring that attention extends beyond any one athlete regardless of how influential that player may be. Christine Brennan's interview didn't settle those debates, it amplified them. It challenged viewers to think not only about individual decisions but also about the direction of the league itself. As expectations continue to rise, leadership will likely face even greater pressure to communicate clearly, respond consistently, and navigate an environment where every decision carries added significance. That may be the most important takeaway from the entire conversation. The story is no longer centered on a single headline or a single interview. It's about how a rapidly growing league manages unprecedented attention and whether it can turn that momentum into lasting success long after today's debates have faded. Christine Brennan's interview didn't provide the final word on the WNBA's future, and it wasn't meant to. Instead, it added another influential voice to a conversation that has been growing louder as the league enters a new era of visibility and expectation. What happens next will likely matter more than what was said in a single interview. Every leadership decision, every public statement, and every response to future controversies will be viewed through a different lens because the stakes have changed. The league now operates under a level of attention that few could have imagined just a few years ago, and with that attention comes greater accountability from executives, players, coaches, and the media alike. The debate surrounding Caitlin Clark, league leadership, and the WNBA's direction isn't likely to disappear anytime soon. If anything, Brennan's comments demonstrate just how many people are invested in where the league goes from here. Some will continue to argue that stronger leadership is needed. Others will believe the current approach simply needs more time as the league navigates rapid growth. Both perspectives are likely to remain part of the discussion. One thing is certain, the next major decision, whether it involves league policy, public messaging, or another headline-making moment on the court, will be examined even more closely than the last. And when that happens, many people will inevitably look back at this interview, not because it settled the debate, but because it underscored just how important the conversation about the WNBA's future has become.